What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here, and today we have a very exciting video. Madden 20 just got a huge new update, probably the best update of the year. Upon reading through all of this stuff, I feel like this is easily the best update of the year. There's a lot of substance here. There's a lot of new stuff added. There was a lot of important fixes that were applied. So if you are new to the channel, as always, and you don't want to miss out on these updates and all the news, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any of these uploads. So I'm just going to kind of focus here on the key highlights really quickly, and then I'm going to break everything down more in depth as we go through the video. So some of the key highlights. The biggest thing here is we finally got the mid-season playbook update. Tons of stuff was done to the playbook. Got new defensive formations, new offensive formations, new plays. Honestly, I'm surprised. I didn't think they would do this much with the playbooks as they did, so very excited to break that stuff down. They also did some stuff for franchise mode. They did some important fixes, and they also finally added a feature that we've been waiting for all year, which we'll cover later in the video. They did some tuning to things in gameplay that desperately needed to be fixed. I definitely think gameplay is going to be a lot better as a result of this gameplay. They added new equipment to the game that people have been asking for, a decent amount of new equipment. There's new player likeness stuff and just tons of stuff in this update. So we're going to break it all down for you guys, let you know every single thing you need to know about. But first, before we get into that, let's hear a word really quickly from today's video sponsor, Audible. Audible has the largest selection of audiobooks in the world, and right now, for a limited time, they're doing a special offer where you get 3 months of Audible for just $6.95 a month, which is less than half of the regular price. Now, this is a really good offer, guys, and if you are interested in it, definitely check out my link below, audible.com/ERW, or you can text ERW to 500-500. When you're an Audible member, you also get 3 free titles every month, which is honestly really cool as well. You get 1 audiobook of your choice, plus 2 Audible originals that you cannot hear anywhere else. Now, my personal recommendation right now, what I'm listening to, is the Drew Brees audiobook, Coming Back Stronger, because he's one of my favorite athletes, and I like to find out more about my favorite athletes. But, I mean, no matter what you guys are into, they literally have something for everybody. So if you want to check it out, check my link below. It's audible.com/ERW, or you can text ERW to 500-500. Alright, so let's get it started. So, let's start here with the new XFactor ability, because if there was one thing in this update that I'm a little, unsure about, it's probably the XFactor ability, but it's not the worst thing in the world, so let's get into it. It's called the Omaha ability. I'm sure you could figure out who this is in reference to. It's inspired by Peyton Manning. This ability allows the QB to see the defensive back coverage play art via the pre-play coach cam when he's in the zone. Now, you can unlock this on arcade and simulation style by completing 4 consecutive, passes of 5+ yards, and in competitive game style, it is 6 passes of 5+ air yards. Now, to knock him out of this zone, he has to have 2 incomplete passes, or an interception, a sack, or a fumble. Now, I told you in a previous update, I didn't kind of like what they were doing with some of the stuff, because I was like, the next thing they're going to do is start showing the play art, and here we are, showing the play art. But at least it's an X factor, it's not an every down ability, so that's good. You have to, the requirements to get in the zone, there's a little bit that you have to do to get into the zone. But there's also a good thing here. If you put your defender on a bluff blitz, it's going to hide what coverage he's in. So there is a counter to it. So if you want to bluff blitz one of your corners or your safeties, to where he takes a step forward and then he drops back into his coverage, it won't show the QB what his coverage is. So there's some way to somewhat get around it. So I mean, that's cool. I'm all right with it. It's not my favorite thing in the update, but it is what it is. I can get around that. It's not an every down ability. Now, they did some global updates as well. General connectivity and stability improvements. That just means disconnect issues. So we should be seeing less disconnect issues, as I talked about in the video last week. They added player likeness for Greg Olsen. He's finally in the game. This is the only player likeness they did. I'm assuming they just threw him in here because he's probably been the guy that's been most complained about, because most people by now know that they have his player likeness, so why isn't it in the game? So this probably means the next update they'll do a bigger batch of player likeness, because they usually do that about once a month, where they update 10 to 20 guys. So they just threw Greg Olsen in here, kind of I guess throwing everybody a bone, okay, here, we know you guys want Greg Olsen. So he's finally fixed in the game. They also added the black captain's patch to the 49ers white alternate uniform. They added the white alternate pants for the Saints, not to be confused with the Color Rush white pants. These are different. They've been wearing these lately, so they added that for the Saints. I know people were asking about that. New equipment. A lot of people have been asking about a few of these things here. So they added the Zenith Shadow helmet. A lot of people have been wanting that. They added 35 new face mask options. highlighted by the vintage 2-bar QB single, the 3-bar nose, and the speed flex bulldog. So 35 new face mask options that you can put on your players. They also added 3 new neck roll options, the butterfly, the cowboy collar, and the vintage single. And they added a note here that said all new equipment options are available in the create/edit player on both the front end and inside of franchise mode and the QB1 face of the franchise mode. So 35 new face masks, new helmet, 3 new neck rolls. You can add them to your custom players, you can add them to existing players, you can do whatever you want with them. It's there for everybody, so that's good. Franchise updates. They finally added the damn 5th year option. It's here, we can have it now. It's in coach mode during the free agent recap week. If the user has players that qualify for the 5th year option, the coach will experience a scenario to decide whether they want to sign the eligible players to a 5th year option. And they will have corresponding news stories that reference the 5th year contract in the franchise mode as well. Now, they fixed some other issues here. Said they fixed an issue allowing league members to change league settings, such as skill level in multi-user leagues, where only the commissioner should have that ability, so that's a good fix. They fixed an issue preventing a player's XFactor ability from appearing on field after the user successfully completed a breakout scenario with a player developing from Superstar to Superstar XFactor. So, when you're a Superstar, you might get that little scenario where you can have a breakout game, you got to get 300 yards, or whatever the case may be. I'm assuming this means that if you meet that criteria in game, you will get your XFactor ability right then and there, which is pretty cool. And I'm guessing you'd be in the zone at that point as well. They also fixed an issue causing the user controlled QB to have the kicker or the punter show up as a mentor when injured. I've seen a lot of people actually complain about that. Didn't really make sense, so they fixed that. And here they also added a note about the server update. It said users who have cloud-based leagues created from Play Now live games in July and August were missing data and crashing the servers once loading into their league. The data was recently fixed on the server, and the corrected data is also in today's update, so that is fixed for you guys as well. So now we get into the gameplay updates, what I know a lot of you guys come here for. So first, we got to talk about the playbooks. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The playbook update here, there's a lot of stuff here. I'm going to do a separate video on this. I'm going to touch on the important playbook stuff in this video right here that you need to know, because there's some very important new things added, but there's just so much that it really deserves its own video. It would make this video last 20 minutes longer than it has to be. So I'm going to probably do a separate video tomorrow breaking down all the playbook stuff, showing you the new plays and new formations, running them, kind of showing you what they could be good for. But let's touch on some of the important stuff. So on the defensive side of the ball, they added a new nickel triple defensive formation to the Bears, Giants, Redskins, and Texans playbook. Now, the Giants are one of the best defensive playbooks in the game, so that's pretty cool for them. We'll show that up on screen real quick. You can see the nickel triple, kind of a different alignment than you're used to, different personnel than you're typically used to, and you can see, got some, exotic looking plays in here. I mean, not too exotic, but you got some, base coverages, but you also got multiple blitzes out of, cover 3, cover 2, man, cover 0, so you can definitely get creative. There's everything you need here to bring pressure and also play coverage. They also added a new nickel 2-4 odd defensive formation to the Bears, Buccaneers, Cardinals, Packers, Panthers, Ravens, and Titans playbook. So think of nickel 2-4-5, the regular 2-4-5, but it's probably going to have an odd defensive front now, so that could be interesting. They also added a new goal line formation, a 6-2 defensive formation to all playbooks. So that's something we'll look at more in depth tomorrow, but we'll pop it up here on the screen. You can see the 6-2. There's a lot of guys there across that line, and this could be really interesting on the goal line because it's such a run-heavy year. Maybe this would do a better job at stopping some of those stretches and dives on the goal line. So that's something I definitely look forward to breaking down. Those are kind of the big highlights from the defensive side. There were also, other formations added to certain playbooks and things like that, but those are the big new formations that were added. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, we got some interesting stuff really with the Saints playbook. So Taysom Hill can finally, he finally has some special stuff in the Saints playbook, and people have been asking about this forever. So he's got, there's some unique packages now where you can package him in at tight end. So, and he also got his own formation, which is cool as well. So here you can see the the single back wing tight. You could see Taysom Hill on the outside right there. Basically all the single back formations with 3 tight ends, he will be the tight end 3. So you can see number 7 there on the right. the single back wing tight U, you could see number 7 there on the left tight end spot, and then the single back wing pair, you could see number 7 there all the way on the right outside. So in the Saints playbook, you can have Taysom Hill in these single back sets. And of course, if you want to use other teams, if you want to put Lamar Jackson as your third, QB with the Ravens and have him in these formations in this playbook, you could do that as well. Now, they also added his own shotgun formation. It's called the Gun Taysom Hill package. So you can have him at quarterback. You see he's at quarterback here. You could have a package that puts him as the halfback. Another package puts him as the tight end. And then there's a fourth package that puts him at the slot receiver. So you can move him all around this formation. And it's pretty interesting because it's similar to the way they use him in real life. They use him out of a very similar formation. You can see he could run a QB blast. There's a read option that he could run, and that's what the Saints do a lot with him. They'll run a blast with him, or they'll run a read option with him and Alvin Kamara, where he either hands it off to Kamara, or he usually takes it and goes to the outside. As you see, there's also a verticals passing play. He does pass the ball every now and then, not too often, but they threw a couple passing plays in there with vertical and stick, and also a screen to the outside. So that's pretty interesting to use right there. They also changed another shotgun formation. They changed the name of it. So this was the Gun Double Y Flex Week. They changed it to that Taysom Hill slot. They didn't change the plays or anything, or the alignment or anything, but as you can see, Taysom Hill lines up as the slot receiver in this formation now. So that's really all they changed about it. So now the Saints playbook, it has a couple little extra things in it. It's one of the more popular playbooks in the game. There's some interesting things you can do with it. When you look at the Taysom Hill package, you think of the interesting things you could do with this. So if you remember, the Ravens ran the Heisman package about a week ago, where they had RG3, Lamar Jackson, and Mark Ingram all in the same backfield. You can kind of simulate something similar with this by getting one of they won't all be in the backfield, but you could get one of them at tight end. You could have Mark Ingram at running back, and then you could have you could have RG3 as the QB. So you could do something similar like that with the Ravens, which would be interesting as well. So just a lot of stuff you can mess around with. So those are kind of the big things they did on offense. They added tons of new RPOs and stuff like that to different playbooks. They added the new Wildcat formation to the Patriots playbook, which is essentially the Wildcat formation that the Falcons playbook had with Mohamed Sanu. They've just changed that to the Patriots playbook since he's on the Pats now. But they added tons of RPOs. They added some new pass plays to other playbooks. I'll pop, up on the screen. You can read it. But it's just so much to dive into that I want to do a separate video on just covering all this stuff separately, because it would just make this video way too long. Now, some other gameplay updates that were important. They finally updated the Nasty Streak ability, which I talked about in the previous video. I said this is probably going to be changed in the next update. Here it is. So the Nasty Streak ability is an offensive alignment ability where they pretty much pancake defensive backs. Just every single time they're going to run them over, even linebackers sometimes. But people were putting this guy at tight end and making they were abusing it, because you could get him outside on defensive back super easy, and he would just run over everybody, and it was pretty overpowered, to be honest. There was literally nothing you could do about it. So now if you put that player out of position, like at a tight end, it's not going to activate. He has to be at his offensive lineman position for it to work. They also updated a counter for the Threat Detector ability, which is something I complained about months ago when it came to the game, where on 3rd and 4th down, you could see who was blitzing. And it was a regular every down ability. So they finally added a counter to that, which is similar to the Omaha counter. If you bluff blitz that guy, it won't show you if he's blitzing or not. You won't know what he's doing. So I think that's a very fair fix, that it was, made sense. So I'm glad they did that. Another fix that they did that we talked about would be coming, that's finally here. They added logic to slow down the AI-controlled zone coverage defenders from breaking on a throw when they are not facing the QB, or if they're moving at speeds too fast to quickly change direction. So when they updated the zone a while back, that was the complaint I had. Not that they made zones better, but the break on the ball was too unrealistic, specifically for people who were not looking at the ball. Their back was turned. So now, if your back is turned to the ball, you will not break on the ball immediately. You won't snap around. It's going to take a little bit. And also, if you're moving in one direction too fast, you're not going to be able to just stop on a dime and break forward. So it's going to kind of make it to where you can't defend two different things at one time when you're in an unrealistic position. So I think that's another really good fix. Another important fix that I can't wait to test out is they tuned to increase the defensive reaction for the deep zone safeties and cover 4 versus running plays. So as you know, I always talk about this on the channel. Cover 4 safeties they play the run first. They look to see if it's a run play before they start backing into their deep zone. If it's a run play, they just shoot forward and start trying to fill their gaps. This year, they were kind of reacting a little bit slower, and with the stretch and dive, run game combo being a little more overpowered this year, it looks like they've now increased the reaction for those cover 4 deep safeties. So I'm really curious to see how this is going to affect the run game. Is this going to make it a little bit harder to run the ball now? That could be a very important fix there. They also tuned to reduce the release time on the tight end block and release mechanic. I think that's another great fix because it's a good mechanic, but when you try to release your tight end on a delay route, sometimes it's very delayed. He doesn't react right away, kind of just making the mechanic useless. So they've now increased that release time, so that should be better as well. And one last thing here that I think is of importance, they fixed an issue preventing specific sack animations that appeared to be a fumble from registering as a fumble. I know you've seen that this year. There's certain sack animations where you sack the QB and he literally just drops the ball on the ground, but it's never a fumble. It just counts as a sack and the play is over. So it looks like now that will be a fumble when you get that animation, which is how it should be. So those are the most important things with this update. As always, I'll link it below in the description if you want to read every single thing yourself, but those are all the noteworthy updates there. Really a lot of good stuff here. Really excited about it. Make sure to check back tomorrow for that playbook video, as I'm going to dive deep into that stuff. And as always, I will see you guys next time.